Hello and welcome to CEO.CA. Today we're at PDAC 2025 and I have the pleasure of speaking to Ray Goldie, the president of PDAC. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, and hello, Melanie.
So so far on the second day of PDAC, how are you finding the sentiment among investors and exhibitors, and have you noticed any shift from last year?
Well, the sentiment continues to be, if you go to the trade show and look at the equipment that's available, gee, this is really cool stuff. There's a lot of positivity and how we can work this. But the concerns that we have are, and they certainly have increased since last year, the concerns about how difficult it is to get exploration financed. And a simple illustration of that is, as of late last year, for the first time in more than a decade, the average TSX venture-listed company, and there's over 2,000 of them, the average TSX venture company had a negative working capital. It's so tough for them to raise finance.
And with gold, gold's pulled back a little bit over the last little while. It's still trading near all-time highs. What trends do you see emerging in the commodity environment?
Well, gold puzzles me a bit because one of the ways of playing it for Canadians is to invest in gold stocks. And gold stocks have not been a bad investment. So far this century, for example, the price of gold in US dollars has gone up 400%.
Wow.
But the price of gold has gone up 800%. There's a disconnect there,
yes.
and I think that's why we're not seeing people at the convention running around cheering the high price of gold, the record high price of gold, because it hasn't yet translated into stock markets.
And another thing that's been in play is the Trump administration, which has started to take shape, and he's been eyeing countries that have critical minerals, such as Canada and Ukraine. How do you think this might affect Canadian mining, and what policies that he has might emerge that that will impact the space?
I recall just last week the chair of a company, of a big mining company, was asked exactly that question, and there was phrased like this: "What impacts will Mr. Trump have on your company, or would you rather say that it's too early to tell? The policies are not particularly well known, and whatever we decide might be his policies, it'll all change tomorrow."
Right.
And his answer was yes.
Yes to all of the above. Yeah, and he is a different president where we don't always know, right? We don't really know what the answer is going to be.
And we think the best approach for us is, at the PDAC, we want to continue to make Canada a large, efficient, and reliable producer of critical minerals. And Canada has access to many of the best mines in the world for many of the commodities. All of them are pretty close to the U.S. border, too.
Yeah, it's true. And Canada has always positioned itself as like a leader in the space.
Yes.
What opportunities and challenges do you see ahead?
Well, the biggest challenge that we faced at the start of this convention was the mineral exploration tax credit. It's the lifeblood of equity financing, and I just mentioned how difficult it is to get financing. And it looked like it was about to become more difficult by the end of this month when the equity, the mineral exploration, we call it METC. Everyone has their own acronyms. The METC, we were advocating for it to be extended forever, to make it a permanent part of the Canadian fiscal regime. And the government seems to have heard it, in part, because yesterday they announced that they intend to extend the METC after April 1st of this year for another 2 years. So it's not quite what we're asking for. We want it to be permanent, but that's 2 years is better than zero.
Yeah, and it's a start, right? And and we have Trudeau stepping aside, a new leader probably coming in this year. What should the new leader of Canada be focusing on aside from the funding?
There are other rules that apply to flow-through funding and so on. For example, if you sell a flow-through share, you are billed by Revenue Canada on the capital gains accrued, assuming that you paid zero. That's not fair. You should be billed capital gains on the price you paid for those shares. So that's one of the tweaks that we're looking for.
Right.
But overall, we really want to see continued and increased government partnership with us and with Indigenous people, because that's the only way we're going to be able to develop those critical minerals, if it's in partnership with Indigenous peoples, and we need the government's help for that.
Going back to what you talked about a bit at the very beginning, are we seeing enough investment? Or do you feel that the environment is still very risk averse?
We're not seeing enough investment, and even if there were to be a big burst of investment today, let's say a giant new copper mine were to be discovered somewhere in Canada today, it will be in production around the year 2050. And that is not anywhere near fast enough to effect the transition away from fossil fuels to electricity. So there's not only not enough investment now, there hasn't been enough investment for some years to provide what's necessary for that transition.
And another transition is in technology. New technology has been reshaping the mining industry. What are you particularly excited about seeing come into the space?
Probably the best application I've seen so far, and time will tell whether it works or not, but it's applying artificial intelligence to mineral exploration. The machine looks at all the data and says, drill there. And so far, the results that it can find a mine has not yet been proven. Let's look forward to artificial intelligence helping every geologist find a mine.
It's exciting. Yeah. Lastly, you've been part of PDAC for so many years. What are you in particular the most excited about seeing in the future, in the next year, the next 2 years?
In the PDAC, the thing I'm most excited about is my successor, Karen Rees, and she's going to be putting the PDAC in strong hands. So I'm excited about working with her in the future, because as past president, I will still show up to annoy people and make sure they tread the path that we set before.
Yeah, well, it's been so great to talk to you, and congratulations on all of your years as the PDAC president. Just thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.